All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack one of the most intense family dramas you'll ever come across. It's a story all about a father, his favorite son, and a single act of betrayal that literally changed the course of history.
I mean, think about it. Can a parent's love actually tear a family apart? It's a tough question, right? But it's at the very heart of this story. We're about to see just how a father's love, when it's not spread around evenly, can set off this crazy chain reaction of jealousy and deceit. But also, and this is the wild part, lead to a destiny that no one saw coming.
Okay, so let's set the scene. We're with Jacob's family, and they're living in Canaan. And you might think, oh, nice family life, but no, this is not a peaceful household. Not at all. There is some serious dysfunction just simmering under the surface, and it all boils down to one thing: the father's obvious in-your-face favoritism.
And here's what's so wild. This wasn't some new issue. You could call it a generational curse, honestly. You see, Jacob's own dad, Isaac, played favorites with his brother Esau. And his mom, Rebecca, she favored Jacob. So fast forward a few decades, and what's Jacob doing? The exact same thing. He's repeating the very mistake that messed up his own childhood, and he's not even hiding it. He openly loves Joseph way more than any of his other kids.
And this favoritism, it wasn't subtle, not in the slightest. It was on full display for everyone to see. Jacob goes and gives Joseph this incredible, gorgeous coat of many colors. Just imagine that for a second. Every single day, you have to look at your brother wearing this flashy, vibrant reminder that you are not the favorite. This coat wasn't just a gift. It was a billboard announcing Joseph's special status, and you can bet it just poured gasoline on the fire of his brother's resentment.
So you'd think the coat was bad enough, right? Well, just when their jealousy is at a boiling point, something else comes along that pushes them right over the edge, and that something was Joseph's dreams. So get this, Joseph has this dream. The whole family is out in a field, tying up bundles of grain, and all of a sudden, his brother's bundles, they all turn and bow down to his bundle. I mean, the symbolism there is about as subtle as a brick to the head, right? And Joseph, being young and maybe a little arrogant, he doesn't think twice about telling them all about this vision of him ruling over them.
And that was it. That was the last straw. For his brothers, this wasn't just some kid being cocky anymore. Nope, this was proof. This confirmed their absolute worst fear, that their dad's golden boy now actually believed he was destined to be their boss. And just like that simmering jealousy was about to explode into a full-blown, dangerous conspiracy.
And this is where things get really dark. Their hatred, which has been bubbling for years, finally boils over. What follows is a cold, calculated betrayal that's going to shatter this family into a million pieces.
So they see him coming way off in the distance, and that's all it takes. The hate just takes over. And their words, they're absolutely bone-chilling. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him. Let that sink in. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment fight. This was a premeditated plan to murder their own brother.
I mean, just look how cold and calculated this whole thing is. First, they conspire. Then they toss him into a pit and leave him to die. But then a caravan of traders happens to pass by, and they get an even worse idea. Why just murder him when they can profit from him? So they sell their own brother into slavery. And then, to top it all off, they cook up this cruel, elaborate lie to tell their father.
And for what? 20 pieces of silver. That's it. That's the price tag they put on their brother's life. It boils this whole horrific betrayal down to a single, cold number. In that moment, Joseph wasn't their brother anymore. He was just merchandise.
Okay, so Joseph is gone. Now the story shifts to the fallout, the devastation, and it lands squarely on the shoulders of the man whose favoritism kicked this whole thing off, their father, Jacob.
And the way they do it is just unbelievably cruel. They take that coat, the very symbol of Jacob's special love for Joseph, and they turn it into a weapon. They dip it in goat's blood and bring it back to their dad, acting like they just found it. They let him believe that his favorite son was torn apart by a wild animal. And Jacob, he just breaks. His grief is total. It's inconsolable. He tears his clothes, and he won't let anyone comfort him, especially not his own children, the very ones who caused all this pain. He basically says, "I'll be mourning my son until the day I die." He's determined to carry this sorrow to his grave.
And this is where the story has this moment of staggering irony. You have to remember, Jacob was a deceiver himself. He's the one who used his brother's clothes to trick his own blind father, Isaac, years ago. And now he's the one who's been completely and utterly deceived by a piece of clothing. It's a brutal full circle moment. The great deceiver has now been deceived.
So you might be thinking, wow, what a tragic, messed up story. And it is, but this is where the narrative takes a huge pivot. Because behind all of this human brokenness and betrayal, there's a much, much bigger plan unfolding, a divine plan. You see, from where Jacob is standing, it's all over. His favorite son is gone. His family is cursed. It's the end of the line. But what he can't possibly see is the bigger picture. This absolutely horrific act of betrayal, it's somehow the first step in a plan to save the entire family, the very family that God had promised to bless the world through. It's an incredible paradox. Joseph's path into slavery in Egypt is actually the path to his family's salvation. So when we step back, what can we pull from all this? Well, for starters, it's a massive warning about the poison of favoritism. It really is, but it goes deeper. It's this incredible picture of what theologians call God's sovereignty, this idea that even the worst things people do can be used for a higher purpose. We also see how sin, well, it has a way of boomeranging back on you, just like it did with Jacob. And it shows us that real, strong faith is often built in the middle of suffering. Really, the whole story is a lesson in providence, that there's a grand design at work, even when all we see is a total mess. And for a lot of people, Joseph's whole journey, being betrayed, left for dead, and then rising to a position to save everyone, it feels like a foreshadowing, a hint of an even greater story of redemption to come. And that really leaves us with something to chew on, doesn't it? It's a challenging thought. Because, let's be honest, most of the time we're just like Jacob. We only see the pain and the loss right in front of us. But this story, it invites us to wonder about a different possibility. It asks us, what if our greatest trials, our darkest moments, are actually shaping a purpose that's so much bigger than what we can see right now?